All right, I got KVG with us today. Can you give everybody a brief introduction to yourself and let everybody know who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, according to the internet, I am the GOAT of beer league. I'm a goaltender who's very passionate about beer league, and I've been making YouTube videos for about a decade now that coincides with my obsession with hockey and beer league and taking myself a little too seriously. And in real life, I am a goalie coach and a commercial actor, and obviously a YouTuber. Well, maybe not obviously, maybe I didn't say that, but yeah, I have a YouTube channel too, and yeah, so it's it's kind of silly, but at the end of the day, I'm pretty proud of it that I found a niche way to still be involved in the game and make a living from it. So just kind of enjoying this ride, and hopefully it keeps going.
Give me a brief breakdown of your hockey history. Where'd you grow up playing, and where all did you play?
So I grew up here in St. Louis, Missouri, and I started playing hockey. I think when I was about 8 or 9, 8, I think I did learn to play, and then when I was 9 is when I started travel hockey and playing goalie. And that's when that's not really when I fell in love with it. I fell in love with hockey, kind of watching the Blues with my dad in the mid 90s, and then didn't come from a hockey family at all. Just kind of pestered my parents to give me skates and all that stuff. And then, once they caved, then the next step was the goalie stuff. And then they finally caved for that. And the rest was history. But yeah, just grew up playing here and then played high school hockey and then did a year of junior hockey where I was really just kind of a suitcase and injured a bit. Things didn't really work out. And then went to college at Bowling Green and practiced there as a walk on and got to dress in some games, which is fun, but did not play in any NCAA D1 games. And then got injured. I got injured actually the first practice, but anyways, lasted there like 3 semesters, and then it wasn't meant to be. Transferred back to University of Missouri, and that's when I started coaching goalies. So I was a student at University of Missouri and then driving to St. Louis on weekends and making a living coaching goalies. I couldn't really call it a living, but the beginning of it. And then so I had a little year off where I didn't step foot in an ice rink, didn't play hockey, thought I was done forever, and yeah, that didn't last long. So here I am, heavily involved in the game, and very, like I said earlier, pretty happy about it.
I've been watching your videos for what you say is over a decade now, which is shocking to hear it out loud. In my head, it's like 7 years ago, like however that works out. How'd you
Much
come up
appreciated, by the way.
How'd you come up with like the whole idea to like post videos or have some sort of a persona? How'd you come up with that?
It it's funny. It just kind of happened organically. So we wanted to make like some hockey videos, and by we I mean my buddy Dave, who we've been friends since middle school, and we had a job in hockey retail at Total Hockey together. And there's a snow day, and we're working on a project, and we're watching what was it, NHL 36 on NHL Network, and it was a cool show, and it was a Patrice Bergeron one, and it was cool, but it could have been better. And not that Patrice wasn't cool. It was just kind of you follow the superstar and see what it's like a day in the life for 36 hours, but you could kind of tell like they were really shooting for 4 or 5 hours and making it seem like it was 36 hours, and we were kind of like making fun of it, but it got the wheels turning. And then we started talking about all these beer league guys who are normally goalies who are like, man, if I didn't blow my knee out junior year of high school, or if I, you know what I mean, if I could X, Y, and Z, I could have played whatever. And we're kind of like, why are those guys always goalies? And normally, and I'm not making fun of like the guys who, are holding on to their dream. That's not what I'm making fun of. I'm talking about guys who like literally never played hockey until they were, in their mid 20s, talking about playing pro and pretty far fetched kind of stuff. And so, anyways, we were like, let's kind of make fun of that. And so we made BHL 36, and the intent was to just make one video. Like the intent was not to make a series of videos, but to just do the one. And yeah, it just got up more views than we anticipated. And then we kind of were like, all right, let's keep this going. And the biggest thing is like I didn't want to be on camera at first, but no one else wanted to. So Dave just talked me into it. And yeah, it all just kind of we are kind of flying by the seat of our pants, but none of that was planned at all. We just want to make one video and just kind of winged it from there.
it was like the voice of like some sort of counterculture at the time. Like it was YouTube, I'm sure, like Twitter,
Hmm.
and there was like a handful of like hashtags were really big at the time. So
Oh yeah.
like all your stuff started like it seemed like you were seeing it everywhere. And me and my friends always had like dreams of shooting movies and had the same thoughts. Like when we would visit Pure Hockey, Total Hockey, and would see the TV show on the wall, we'd also say, dang, that'd be cool to like have our own show on that too. And I think Trailer Park Boys was big at the time. Like at
Yeah.
least that seemed like a bus movie. And Fubar. Have you ever seen that movie Fubar?
Yeah, it's been a minute, but yeah, and then like Letterkenny guys, I want to say were on YouTube back then
Yep.
too. Yeah,
So it was
good
like this
times.
cool, like if you were, all of us were into hockey. I was playing club hockey at the time, and so it was kind of club hockey in 2000, like 10 and 11 was just like beer league, making
Yeah,
videos in beer league at the same time as far as like what people thought of it. And so it like really
yeah.
resonated with me and my friends, especially my best friend Puma's a starting goalie, and his mentality was always like he was a really good backup, and he liked being healthy scratched, and so I was always healthy scratched, and so everything you always said really resonated with us, and we
Good.
always
That's awesome.
we always like enjoyed it, and now that we all play beer league, it's like not as funny because it all came true, but.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. All roads lead to beer league, right? That's the slogan, and no matter how good you are, that's a fact. You want to keep going. But anyways, I appreciate the kind words. That's awesome that, you guys even watch them or that anybody really watches the videos. It's one of those things where, when we make them and we sometimes you see views, you're like kind of blown away by it. Like people are still watching this. This is awesome. But and we've kind of, you can see the numbers as to who is watching, and now I'm seeing it's more kids, over the years. So I've definitely the videos are certainly more kid friendly now than they were, initially intended to be. But hey, as long as somebody's watching, that's all that really matters to me.
Yeah, and no, that's really good. What have you been up to recently?
I coach almost every single day, at least 5 days a week. It's funny. I joke in my videos how I sleep till 11 a.m., but I really wake up at like 4:45 and leave my house around 5 a.m. every day. Um, so that's just kind of like a funny personal joke. But busy with that, and then I do. I don't know if you could call it acting. It's more commercial acting where I audition for commercials and stuff. 2, 3 times out of the year, I get it. So that sometimes keeps me busy, and then sometimes it's non-existent for months. So that's just kind of hit or miss. And then yeah, the YouTube videos whenever I have a chance, or whenever we have time, trying to create content and get really YouTube's my big focus. I mean, Instagram's great and all, but YouTube is what I really care the most about growing. So trying to focus more on that.
Do you have any tips for any hockey players or athletes who maybe watch your videos and see what you do and maybe want to either brand themselves or make sketch comedy or make videos?
Um, I wish I had some different advice that's what's already out there, but I think just doing it, like just getting out there, doing it, getting out of your comfort zone, not being afraid to make mistakes and look stupid. Obviously, I have no problem with that, but you know what I mean? Like don't take yourself too seriously and just do it. And the other thing is I think people have unrealistic expectations and they're kind of setting themselves up for disappointment. So, if you get lightning in a bottle like a lot of these guys have, that's awesome, but don't hold your breath. But one thing all those guys have in common, whether it be, Coach Jeremy, Nick the goalie, Nasher, Barber, any of those guys, is a love for the game, but a legitimate work ethic. Like those guys work hard, and even though they're having a lot of fun, there's a time to get serious, and those guys are really good about that. And so it's not a coincidence that those guys hit lightning in a bottle. So I guess my point is just kind of work hard, stay the course, and see what happens.
What's going on with beer league? Do you think it's gotten more violent, or is that just the rise of like the Instagram and Live Barn and everybody like the long tail of people putting videos on the internet, and which is funny because like I even think like when you first started posting your videos, like it was so hard to post any type of video of yourself skating, and so like so much of the content that we liked was like you on the ice. We're like, oh, it'd be so cool to just like get on the ice in our gear and film something because there's like never any
Yeah.
opportunity. But now because of like Live Barn, seems like every clip is out there. Do you like what's going on with beer league? Do you think it's gotten more violent?
Um, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head where I think there's just more videos out there that you can have access to and see. You know what I mean? I know, like my league is never. It's usually pretty clean, and I think like the higher level it is, like normally those guys get it, and like we play hard. Like every week, everyone tries to win. It's not like anyone's going 50% or anything like that. Like we're all tryhards, but it's norm and there's some slashing going on, but it's never anything. There's normally like one or two penalties a game in our league typically. But I have some buddies on my team that play in the league below us, and they're just like, it's a gong show. They're like, a lot of them don't want to play anymore because they're like, these guys show up and then they're just like, it's like they watch what they see on TV and they want to try to emulate, or you get the you want to go, and it's like I've never heard anyone say that in our league, not for a really 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 long time. So I think it depends on the league, but to your point, there's with live barn, like you can't hide. I mean, everything's out there, whether you're a coach or player. Like if you do something stupid, you're not going to get away with it. So I think that's a huge part of it for sure.
Yeah, I was just trying to think about it. I think you have a different experience. How many NHLers play in your beer league or stick around or alumni? That's the thing that a guys ask me all the time is have like I ever played with NHLers or they're willing to pay a couple $100 extra to a tournament to play in a league or like beer league games against professional players. And I think Corporate Challenge in Buffalo was one that was always really big, where they would get the NHLers and alumni, and these guys would pay six, seven, $800, $900 for like a 3 day binge drinking fest with some ex local
Like a
NHLers.
fantasy camp type thing.
Yeah, and we don't have
Yeah.
that here in Kansas City. There's only a couple NHLers that ever played or still play that live in town. Ken Morrow from the U.S.
Oh yeah.
Olympic team lives in town, but he doesn't
Was he
play.
he might have been a Bowling Green guy. I don't know. Might have to
Yeah,
fact check that. But
I have no
um,
idea, and I couldn't tell you anything else about him other than his Olympic days. But do
yeah.
you have a lot of one thing guys ask me all the time is like, do you have any NHLers that play beer league?
Not for a while. I mean, so we have, I want to say it's been years, but Cam Jansen used to play a little bit. Pat Maroon used to play a lot. Pat would score a lot too. It was a lot of fun when he was out there because he wouldn't go 100%, but he would still try. And you'd see a skill and he'd dangle and score. And it was, and for a big guy to do that out there, he was always a good sport about it. Like, it was always fun when he was out there. It was always fun when Cam was out there too, for sure. Trying to think. There's a guy named Brandon Bullock who won a Stanley Cup, the Chicago Blackhawks. He used to play beer league every summer, and he probably went 20%, but still, it was a lot of fun to play against him. That's all I can think of as far as my league, and that was probably a decade ago. All this, no one's really playing a while, but I did get to do the. I don't know if the Blues still do it, but they used to do this fantasy camp out of their old practice facility in Chesterfield, and it would kind of be like all the money would go to charity. So there'd be like different teams, essentially beer league teams. And I was on the one that we ended up winning the whole thing, which is fun. But our owner who would like pay, I think it was like $3,000 or whatever. And then that money goes to charity. And then you get Paul Stasny gets to play in your team for like one period or something. So I actually played high school with Paulie. So like I've known him forever. But he got to play with us, I think, for like half a game or something. And then I can't remember what other Blues players were out there because it was about 10, 11 years ago. But Stasny, for sure, I remember. And there are like a few others. So like that was the only time I did that one weekend. And it was actually a blast, a really good time. But like you said, it was just kind of a booze fest where I was at the rink all weekend and going to work that Monday was tough. But yeah, so it's cool. You see like Patrick Kane and those guys like dangling and dominating beer league. And I would love it if, Trent Frederick or one of those guys popped in, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I'm not going to hold my breath.
It's tough. I know a lot of them like to play, especially with the rise of these 3-on-3 leagues, which I think is a cool thing, like the SoFlo 3-on-3 and the
Yeah,
Beauty League, and some of these other outlets are good for them. I played up in upstate New York with Jay McKee, Matt Barnaby, and a couple other ex NHLers. And what I found is those guys don't enjoy it because they get the best of every opponent they play against, because that guy wants to
yeah,
be the one that scored a goal against some NHLer,
yeah,
or, for whatever reason. And even like guys, a good buddy of mine back here in town, played professional hockey for the longest time, is in our age, and doesn't play anymore. And he doesn't want to jump into beer league because he watches like that video of Sean Avery like poking a kid in the back of the leg and dropping him, and all these videos of like
yeah,
guys two-handing players in the top of the head, or asking to fight him, especially if that's what you were known for. you know
yeah.
if you're
I
like,
think some of those guys like can't, and this isn't intended to be disrespectful. It's just trying to make sense of it. But some of those guys, like a switch goes off and they can't control it. I've seen it, and I'm not going to name names, but I just got a flashback of somebody from who played professional who just kind of like lost it, and it was one of those things where like they realize like, okay, I shouldn't be doing this because if something happens, I could be in trouble. You know what I mean? But yeah, to your point, like no part of me is like if Tarasenko shoots on me and I stop 1 out of 5, like I'm not walking out of the rink with my chest puffed out. Like I remember the goals he scored, and I know it's a percentages thing. Sometimes the puck just hits you, so like it is what it is. But some guys are different, and they want that any reason to go home with their chest puffed out to say they stopped so and so, or they won a board battle against whoever. You know what I mean? So I get why those guys wouldn't want to play. A lot of those guys here in St. Louis skate together, like in a morning where it's like they know everyone, everyone's friends, nothing stupid happens, and they just do it for fun in a workout. And so, like, there are no penalties out there. You know what I mean? Like, it's significantly frowned upon if you're out there whacking, slashing, or running your mouth. So, a lot of those guys tend to go that way so they can still skate, still get their fix, still play, still hang out with the guys, but it's not competitive. No one's keeping score. It's just fun. So that's kind of how it seems to be here.
yeah. And I also played too with this is see, here's where it gets interesting though. So you're a beer league goalie. Put yourself in these shoes. Like, you work all day. This isn't you, of course, but you hate your nine to
Right.
five. The only one thing you look forward to is hockey every week, and you're a goalie, and you put the pads on, you show up, you don't have a beer, you're running late, and you jump on the ice, and there's a 19-year-old OHL player out there who's gonna play in the NHL, and he's filling in because his dad plays, and he puts like 9 or 10 up on you. Like, that's never a good feeling too, right? So I think that
No.
there's a lot of resentment that comes from like at any time because they're so good. Like,
Yeah. I don't know. I think like one of those guys, like if Patrick Kane or somebody, like, could he go out and score 15 goals in a beer league game? Of course he could. But he probably just had like 3 or 4 and kind of showed off how he could. I don't know. I think a lot of those
what's
guys like see him
what
dangle and score, and they're probably like, it's one of those things where you kind of have a smile on your face when you get scored on, where any other time you're like furious. But I don't know if that makes any
who's
sense.
that kid? Who's the kid right now? Oh gosh, who's the draft pick right now? I was
Oh,
just
the top, I forget.
Dryden. I of course I'm horrible with names, but he shows up and what and puts 8 or 9 up on you. It's hard not to have like a bruised ego over like but
I would
I
just
get it.
be furious the cameras weren't rolling because I'd be like, dude, this would have been great for my YouTube channel.
You're
That
100%
probably would
making
have been
content.
my, yeah, yeah. Well, at least trying to.
Is let's talk high school hockey rivalries.
Yeah.
Is St. Louis high school hockey rivalries better than Minnesota high school hockey rivalries?
Better at, no, absolutely not. But it's pretty good. I mean, so I'm getting a little feedback in my microphone. Are you hearing that at all, or is it just me? No, it's not you.
I'm
It's my microphone.
I'm
It's
not, but I don't hear it at all on my end. So you're
okay,
good.
cool.
You're good on
Cool.
my end.
Okay, I'm just gonna go with the one then. It's just kind of bothering me. Sorry about that. So yeah, I've been to the tournament up in Minnesota, not recently, like pre-COVID, but it's been awesome for a really long time. And the atmosphere, the rivalry, like it is the state of hockey. High school hockey up there is like football, high school football in Texas. You know, it's like Friday Night Lights, but hockey, and it is second to none. Maybe Massachusetts might be second, but Missouri has some great high school programs. They're typically all private schools, and they're all rivals for sure. I'd say like the top two or three schools might be able to compete with like a top 15, top 10 Minnesota team, maybe. But I think, you take our top five teams and their top five teams, they're gonna be a lot better and a lot more cohesive. And because a lot of these kids here on these top teams play like AAA and then they play high school kind of secondary. So they don't practice together ever. They just show up for games on weekends, and that's kind of about it. So I'd have to say Minnesota's on a whole nother level. I wish the answer was different, but it's
What
gotten
would it
better
be
here.
in, what would it be instead of the all hair team? Like the all toasted ravioli team?
Yeah, who knows? The all God, I don't know. The all
It'd be
mullet
hard.
team. I have no
Yeah.
idea.
They
It's
always did have a good style. Like growing up in Kansas City, we'd go play in St. Louis on the weekends, and the only place I could this is a good one. The only place I could usually get hockey gear back in the before the internet, like things like Eagle gloves and graph
oh yeah.
skates and like the I when Mighty Ducks came out, they had like the half wave with the cage on the bottom visor. Like
Yeah.
the only you
Yeah.
couldn't get it in Kansas City. There was no hockey
Half
stores,
and half.
but we would go to Johnny Mac's in St.
Oh yeah.
Louis,
Yeah.
and I think they had like a cave of eagle gloves, and it was like
Yeah.
I remember one Christmas that was like all I asked for was a pair of like 14-inch custom eagle gloves, and of course Santa delivered. But I think I wore those things for like 12 years. Like
Dude,
you could never
Rawlings
wear
gloves and
gloves
yeah,
for 12
Rawlings
years
gloves and
nowadays.
Eagles gloves were huge. Like when I was growing up, like if you had like it's all about the gloves when I was a kid. Nowadays it's all about sticks and skates, which makes a ton of sense. Skating, shooting, right? But like back then the technology wasn't there. It was all about like how do you look, And like if you didn't have leather gloves, you might as well just go home, right? So like everyone had the Rawlings, like red, white, blue, yellow blues gloves, or the Eagle gloves, which kind of got really popular like right after the Rawlings ones. But it's funny, Johnny Max is where my AAA coach worked, and he was like the hockey guy there, and so I'd go there and order gear through him all the time, which is wonderful. But like my parents used to like legitimately drop me off at Johnny Max and then go run errands and then come back and pick me up like 2 hours later, and I'd be fine. Like you can't do that nowadays. I'm pretty sure that's illegal, but I would just be in there trying on goalie pads. You need help? Nope, I'm good. But yeah, so it's a bit of a babysitter too.
Yeah, I always loved going to St. Louis. You guys always have some really good hockey. What about this? Do you think the Michigan should be illegal? Should the Michigan be illegal?
No, I like it. I mean, let me step back a second. I don't like it when it happens to me, and it has happened to me.
I like it.
Ole from on the bench did it to me, like legitimately at this Bauer event, and it was actually awesome and hilarious at the same time. I just wish there was another goalie. Uh, I think it's good for the game. I think like you've got freaking people in the NBA and all over the like different sports, different parts of the world are talking about the NHL, and they're like smiling. They're like, "Oh wow, look at this!" And like you know, you can say whatever you want about the Zegers goal, but same thing. Everyone was talking about the NHL. That is a marketable thing. It's a business. So at the end of the day, if you're a true fan of hockey, like it or not, you gotta kind of accept it. So, and I think it's not easy to pull off. Like there's certain guys, if you give them space, like yeah, they can pull it off easily. But it's like okay, well, you just got to play that a little more aggressively. So like Bedard's on Bennington had no chance. No one's going to save that. But if you watch the play, like they just step back and give the kid plenty of space, or enough space. So I think they just got to figure that out defensively to minimize it. But I think it's good for the game.
Yeah, I think there
Like
needs to
things
be.
like that, like the creativity is good for the game. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, no. You're totally fine. I think this is a conversation I want to have with more people because I see it taking over. Like it's becoming such a huge part. Like you see what Zach Bell does, like always
Oh yeah.
hockey,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think the current rules like are meant to define like what he does with twirling the stick around and having the stick
Right.
maybe come above what is the crossbar or whatever. Like I think that it
Mhm.
would benefit from some clarification on allowing them to do that. Like having the rule where the no longer is it a high stick. You're not batting it out of the air, but what's going to happen one day when a guy does this where he Michigans it and he spins his stick around, he catches it and then he puts it in. And they're going to
I don't know.
everybody's
I
going
don't
to
know.
be like, is it high
I don't know
stick? And then they look at the film and he's not touching it when it's above and like I don't know, but I think also you as a goalie know too like if I have a if I'm behind the net or something and I'm trying to come like over the net, that's like a hard play. Like that maybe should be illegal. But if I'm skating down the ice and I pick the puck up like this and I start doing the lax thing, like I
yeah.
think that should maybe be legal. So like I think it would
I
benefit from some clarification.
yeah, I think as long as you keep it below your shoulders, I think you're good. So let me say what Zach does is really impressive. Not saying not trying to downplay it, but I don't think anyone's going to intentionally throw up at their stick, and you know what I mean? Because like you get bumped into, you don't catch it, and now all of a sudden you don't have a stick, right? And then going over the net would be a high stick, so we're good on that. I think, but going back to it, like the future of it, like I see where you're going with this, right? Like the game is going to evolve. Like what's next? Um, Two All-Star games ago in Florida, not the one in Toronto, but in Florida. Swaggy Pete and Pavel Barber. It took them
Yeah.
a couple tries, let's just say a couple, but they did the Zorro. One of them got the Zorro, and they come down and they do like what were they doing? They were doing like they'd Zorro to each other and then catch it in the air and
Yeah.
like catch it in the air and then come in and go bar down. And then they were doing some kind of like midair sauce pass where they like had their sticks in the I don't even really know, like catching it on their blade as they're going to the net kind of thing. It was incredible. And if they, are you going to pull that off? No, but who the heck knows what you're going to be able to pull off in 30 years with, you know what I mean? But the more skilled these guys are getting, like who knows where it's going. But I think we are going to start to see more plays like the Zegers thing. And like, I just don't think we know exactly what that is yet because it hasn't happened. You know what I mean? But I think the game will keep evolving, and if and when it does, it gets people talking about hockey. So I think it's a win-win for everybody except for the goalie.
It's a goalie's worst nightmare, and I have it on film. You saying that you're pro Michigan, so that's going to be a campaign. I'm going to link up with Swaggy P, and it's going to be like on a little TV, and it's going to be an ad campaign. Michigan
Yeah.
for
Well,
president. But I love it, and I think that but currently I think it's illegal. So that's like my stance is like people are like, how do you feel? Like it's like I love it, and I think that there should be more clarification about what you could do, and I think it'll open it up to the whole lax side. I conflate it all. Like I call the Michigan lax
yeah.
goals and lax goals Michigan, but there's technically not the same. Like a Michigan is when you're behind the net and you scoop it and you put it in. But what Swaggy P is doing, which I love, and he pulled it off on 3-3, is toe pressing, picking it up, and carrying it. You know,
Yeah.
and I think it only takes a little bit of space, especially with how quick these guys are nowadays, where he's gonna flip that stick around, catch it, and score. Or what about a butt in Michigan? Like I think that's currently illegal, but maybe that should be looked at
Yeah. Who
as
knows?
like
That's something
somebody
Zach
that
Bell
uses
does. I'm
both
pretty
sides
sure
of the
I've seen
stick.
him. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I what
you pay for the whole stick,
you might
Kane.
as well
You're
use
gonna
it, right?
use it. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm plus 16 on my butt end, and I'm -4 with the blade end. So
Hey, whatever works.
Bigger
Whatever
League
works.
Special. Uh,
Oh,
hey, I'm gonna see if I can do the screen share. We only got a couple minutes here. Let's see if I can do
okay.
this. I want you to take a look at. Are you familiar with the Kansas City Scouts?
I know of them. Yeah.
So the Kansas City Scouts were Kansas City's NHL team. They started the season in 1976 playing in Japan. I want you to take a look at these sweaters and see what you think. See, Kansas City Scouts were in the NHL. They ended up becoming the New Jersey Devils after this, but in
That's right.
1976, they played in Japan to start the year. And I want you to take a look at these sweaters and see if we can get a rate from them. Can you see that photo of that goalie here? What do we think?
Yes, I've seen those. I've seen those. So one of my goaltenders, his name's Isaac. He moved to St. Louis from Kansas City for, I think, for hockey opportunity. Honestly, he's playing juniors right now, and I don't know if it was him who showed me these jerseys, but he's definitely talked about the Kansas City Scouts um, quite a bit. But I love them. I mean, they're so loud, and it definitely reminds me of the not vintage but retro blues, like the mid '90s blues a bit, because that's red and navy, right? Just like the
Yeah.
Gretzky sweater right behind you. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, good eye. So, hey, we only got a couple of minutes left here. I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat with me and kind of share some
yeah,
stories. Like,
absolutely.
like I said, you're an icon to all of us beer leaguers. Whether or not they know it, all roads do lead to beer league. So, before we get out of here, where can people follow you and how can people support you?
Yeah, I am Kane Van Gate 38 on YouTube, Instagram, and then I am the real KVG on TikTok. And I appreciate the kind words. It was fun coming on, and gosh, I hope Kansas City gets an NHL team one of these days. I think that'd be so awesome to have that rivalry, and then have hockey blossom in the middle of Missouri, or more so than it already is, I should say. So yeah. Anyways, fingers crossed on that. But yeah, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no problem. And like I said, much appreciate you keep putting out content. Are you going to get a new set of pads this season? What's going on with your pads? You got new pads? What's up?
Um, I don't think so. Actually, I'm not really sure. So I just got the Hyperlight twos. So I'll probably will get whatever new version of that comes out, which I don't think will be out for like another year. So I'm probably like at least a year out of another set. Right now, though, I'm working on getting a custom set for my little guy, which is hopefully going to break the internet. So I'm really excited about that. Something to match Daddy, hopefully.